It's just amazing to me.
What could you see?
We have so many of the original stories.
What could you discover?
People come and research.
If you just ask.
Exactly. Look and ask.
Here, questions could lead you to boxes.
Those are histories.
The Blair Caldwell African American Research Library has tons of them.
We have 150 collections.
And Special Collections head Terry Nelson just may know
We have the preservationists work on this.
what's inside every one.
This is from a huge notebook that we got.
The library collects the history of Colorado's African Americans and not solely the prominent and powerful.
People say, we want this kept. We want this in a special place, and we know you'll take care of it. So they bring it to us.
Gifts from families
We are natives. I'm a native. We have lived here all our lives.
who have lived here for generations.
Many people have just brought their photos, their family photos, so we can do a genealogy search.
The archivists here say history doesn't have to come out of some big book. It could come out of a box, like this button from Ethel's House of Soul. Remember this restaurant? Well, this is history too.
Who were the regular people, the folks that worked in Miss Ethel's restaurant down the street? And what about the regular people?
Those regular people are just waiting to be discovered in questions on genealogy
And they'll say, gosh, my auntie used to live here and her name was so-and-so.
and geography.
I used to go to the store down the street.
Instead of waiting to be told a story, here you could discover a story, if only you ask.
You have to ask, because someone will know something from somewhere.
With photojournalist Byron Reed, Taronda Thomas, 9 News.
Everyone has to have a copy of our history.
The one thing about history
Times were rough as well.
is it tends to explain why and how things came to be.
Did you hear me?
The freedom rides, the sit-ins.
Harry Waters recalls the time when 9 different groups of African Americans came together during a time of racial segregation.
In 1948, all fraternities and sororities, of black fraternities and sororities, met in Cleveland, Ohio. And this was before the civil rights movement had started. They had decided then that they were going to fight segregation.
The black sororities and fraternities were founded during the early 1900s. Alpha Phi Alpha was the first. It was a brotherhood of distinguished men determined to help their community through service.
Once becoming an alpha man, you have that desire to do something that's worthwhile.
Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord.
Martin Luther King Jr. was one of those alpha men who helped change society.
I've seen changes ever since, I was born in 1912.
Marie Greenwood, now 101 years old, has seen a lot. She's a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha, the first black sorority.
There I am, my best friend Eleanor.
Service to all mankind is the motto.
We did community projects. We put on productions to make money to help others.
And helping others helped members like Greenwood to have a sense of belonging.
In the 30s, it was the greatest outlet that we, as black young women, could have had.
Whether it was the civil rights movement of voter registration or helping a young person get to college, the black sororities and fraternities were there.
Most blacks are still connected to their fraternities.
And more than 100 years later, the 9 organizations continue the legacy of their founders because they know their work is never done.
We have helped to open up the doors that we have. It's all part of history.
Megan Fitzgerald, 9 News.
We have been spreading the news about people of color since 1987.
Newspaper publishers see it all.
I always say that we're a recorder of history.
But there's one thing this publisher has never seen.
I am totally blown away about that.
In fact, not too many people, period, have seen this.
This was phenomenal.
Tucked away on the 5th floor of the Denver Public Library, its delicate pages protected.
It's so historical.
Long forgotten features and faces
She just looks familiar.
of color.
It's unbelievable.
It was called the Denver Star, circa 1913. This newspaper had the type of news that wasn't in other papers.
Those papers all over the world have been the ones to tell the story of what was happening in the African American community. What happened with a political candidate who had a fancy tea, who got married.
Historians trace African American newspapers as far back as the days of slavery.
They have been going since the early 1800s.
2 centuries later,
Interesting to look at this.
this newspaper inspires a 21st century publisher, B. Harris of Denver Urban Spectrum.
There was a need there, and that was phenomenal.
So who was behind these stories?
You know what? That says a supplement. So I was wondering if that was a Black-owned publication.
A family donated the paper to the library. One of the only things researchers have figured out is that the issue was for a convention of the National Association of Colored Women's Clubs. It featured prominent Denver African Americans
It's got Madam C.J. Walker in there.
and some articles
This story I thought was very interesting.
that may not make modern-day headlines.
It's called Denver's Great Sanitarium.
People showing off houses
To own a home was the epitome of being in the middle class.
and hairdos.
Look at the hair.
This is the only copy in the Denver City Archives.
I wish there were more issues that we could find.
It's as if the star vanished, and that's the danger many newspapers face now.
The changing of times and the changing of technology, it's like, well, how do we move forward with this?
There's a reason this modern-day publisher finds inspiration in these pages.
But we do need it.
This faded star is a reminder to let no story go untold, no face be forgotten.
To tell our stories. We have to tell our stories. I don't think anyone else will.